Record. Yep. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. We are so happy that you joined us. This is our 8th Zoom of our 10 Zoom series. And I am just so proud of each and every one of you, making it through the holidays, not missing one Zoom. So I just want to tell Michael a little bit about this group. This is a group of runners. They are all very, very excited to get to executive as quickly as possible. Dana and I, a couple of weeks ago, were talking and wanted to just kind of mentor a couple of people together to take them to executive through the holidays. And so we decided to put it out there on our team pages, and we had so many people that wanted to commit, and we kind of set some ground rules. They couldn't miss a Zoom. There was going to be 10 of them every Wednesday night at 10, every Saturday morning at 10 a.m., 7 a.m. for the California folks. And then we also put some, action steps on our page, a special page that we created that I think you're on. And they have to post their activity and really keep up with the tasks. And they are doing such a fantastic job. And so we are just so excited today to have you on with us, Michael. I've been watching and listening to Michael for almost 17 years. In my very first network marketing company, that's where I first heard him speak at an event, and he even flew in, I think, twice for me personally to do a training, so that was really cool. I've been thinking my way to success ever since. I read The Future Choice, The Fifth Principle. I have my success pack. These are all audios and books that Michael himself wrote. And so he's just been in the industry for 30 years. 30 years. So I'm so excited for all of you to hear from him today because there is just nobody that knows network marketing in this profession better than Michael Clouse. So Michael, I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Right. You have to unmute him. I can't from my end.
I got it.
Got it.
I saw the button and I pushed it.
Perfect.
Even I can do this. Okay, so can you hear me okay? Yes? All right, very, very nice. Well, first of all, thank you for getting me up so incredibly early. I appreciate that. It was exciting. I had my water, I had my coffee, then I had my shake. I'm awaiting the second cup, which I've been promised will be forthcoming, although we'll have to see what happens there. But I just really want to commend, to start off with, all of you. What Rachel suggested there at the very beginning about your level of commitment is indeed impressive. You know, it's one thing to show up, it's another thing to show up again. And it's entirely something else to continue showing up throughout some commitment that you've all made, obviously, here. And that really is what separates the people who ultimately create lives that they enjoy living, and people that seem to be starting over and starting over again and starting over again. We've just finished one of the most epic restarts, I think, in recent history, which, of course, we all refer to as the New Year or New Year's resolution. So many people, not only in this country, but indeed around the world, are setting or resetting usually the very same goals they were unable to achieve a year ago. And, of course, we know at the top of the list, good for us is weight loss. So, on the one hand, we can use that to our advantage. If you're tired of being in a position of just starting over, why not give this a try and see if you can actually accomplish or achieve the goals that you've set out for yourself and make this 2017 the best year you've ever had. But for too many other people, what's going to happen around February, March, April, or May? They're going to be right back to living the lives that they were living before. And sadly, even within the space of Isagenix, just showing up here is not a ticket to success. We all operate within the same space, network marketing. Whether we like it or we're a bit more reserved about it, we still all operate within the same space. This is the profession that Isagenix has chosen to be a part of. And so it treats everyone pretty much equally from beginning to end. We've all chosen to be a part of the same company, Isagenix. It's not different on the East Coast than it is on the West Coast. It's pretty much the same wherever you go. True, in Asia, the products might be a little bit packaged differently or something of the sort because of their climate, but they still have the same cleanse and ionics and proteins that we're using here. So same profession, same company. I touched on a little bit, but we have the same products. Again, they're not different for men or for women, except for the vitamins. We have the same product line. We've got the same compensation plan. This isn't like going to work for a company where, you're new, so we're going to start you at this level. And then as you continue to experience, time with our company, we're going to give you that raise in 6 months or that raise in a year. And then you find out maybe because you're female that you're just being underpaid because someone doesn't think that you're worthy of receiving the same income as somebody else. Just crazy, but we know what happens in the world. Doesn't happen here. There's nothing about the experience that you've brought, whether you're someone like Dana or Rachel or Lynn or myself that, came to Isagenix with a certain amount of experience, or whether this is really your first attempt. It doesn't matter. The compensation plan is going to treat you the same. If you do the work, you're going to be paid. So when you take a look at those variables and realize that the first 4 are absolutely a level playing field, same profession for all of us, same company for all of us, same products for all of us, same compensation for all of us, or the same opportunity to be compensated, I should say, for all of us. What's the difference? And it comes down to the only real variable in the equation, which is point number 5, the U factor. It's what we individually choose to do and how we individually choose to capitalize on where we are. For some people, this is going to be a bit of a learning curve, and it's going to take you a period of time to get there. For others, you were able to, again, bring everything that you knew and loved about the profession, and you're able to invest it, here. And so you might have what some would perceive as a head start. But it really is just utilizing your experience. That being said, if you pay attention to the numbers, for all of you that are new, I hope you get excited when you realize that more often than not, the new millionaires that are being announced have never done this before. These are individuals that came into the space of Isagenix and literally just learned the system and went to work. Pardon me. And as a result, they've gone on to achieve over $1 million in cumulative earnings and have been written up in one of our magazines, usually ISA FYI. And if you start reading those stories, what at least I feel when I go through them is that so many of those people are just individuals that, although they were in the same space, the networking space, they were with the same company, Isagenix, same products that we all have, same compensation schedule, they did something perhaps a little bit differently than the other people who have been around for the same period of time. Because if you are taking notes, let me give you what I think is arguably one of the most important things to remember about the space we're in. And it's easy for me to share this information with you now, having been here for over 30 years. Sometimes when you're first starting out, you don't really see it the way I'm going to share it with you. But I'll promise you, when all of you have celebrated your 3rd decade within the space of network marketing and hopefully still within the space of Isagenix, you'll be able to look back on these notes and recognize that there was an unbelievable thread of truth. And if you'll just trust me on this in the very beginning and just begin applying this in your life, you won't need 3 decades to prove it to be true. Here it is. This is the only place that I've really ever experienced where time is different. And I don't mean from an Einstein perspective. I mean literally. When I ask someone, for example, if they're in a relationship, how long have the two of you been together? What I receive in return is a linear response. We've been dating or going out or going steady or married or whatever it is for this period of time. If I ask someone, how long have you lived in your particular home or your city or your state? Again, I receive a linear response. You have children. How old are your children? I receive a linear response. And virtually everything we do, you have a master's or a doctorate degree, or you went to university. How long did it take you to complete your formal education? Again, we receive a linear response. You work within the space of medical or real estate or whatever it is. How long have you been in that space? A linear response. You get the idea. And so we're so used to thinking about time from the standpoint of the calendar that when we show up here for the very first opportunity in our world, our lives, no one really ever has the conversation. I mean, I had to stumble across this myself to recognize that time here is very distorted. Here's the note. This is not about how long. This is about how many. And that key point, that distinction right there is what will separate the people that I'm looking at here on this screen that become the $1 million earners within this company, and the people that within the same space of time, say 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road, are still trying to figure out how they can get some traction, where they can find some good people, how they can start getting the momentum back, how they can, in essence, start again, assuming, of course, they're still here. Again, this is not about how long. This is about how many. So what do I mean by that? Wipe from your mind your start date within Isogenics. You've just got to let that go. How long from a linear perspective you've been here really doesn't matter. What matters is what you do within the space of that time. For example, if we have 2 people that both sign up on January 1st or 2nd, and now here we are approaching the midpoint of the month, and one of those individuals is still trying to figure out where they should go and what videos they should watch and, what their products are. I'm going to wait for the product experience first. And, if this really works out, then I can jump on board and I can share it with my friends. On the other hand, we have the same type of individual, although they have, maybe without even knowing it, approached time differently. They began immediately sharing with their friends, hey, you need to come join me on this journey. Well, how are the products? I have no idea. My box hasn't even arrived yet. I think it's going to be okay, but I don't know. Hey, if it doesn't work out, you can return it. Oh, my coffee. Thank you. Thank you. She said it would be forthcoming, and she was right.
Hey, everyone. Good morning.
Hi, Lynn.
That was Lynn. Thank you for the coffee, sweetheart. Thank you. So, we've got this individual over here, and they didn't even wait for their box to arrive. They realized that if their products didn't work out, someone could return them. The companies like Nordstrom's and other very well-respected companies have returns, and they take them every day. But they usually don't take them from disgruntled people. They take them from individuals that just realized it wasn't right for them. The products are returned, the credits are issued, and those people usually over time remain customers of those companies. We're no different. And so as 2 individuals move down their path, you can see the way they approach their journey is indeed very different. One is more of a linear approach. Let me see how this works. I'll give it a couple of weeks. I'll give it my first month. I want to go through my first cleanse. I want to make sure this is okay. Let me give it about 30, 60, or 90 days. Then I'll really be able to understand how this works. The other person recognizes it's not about how long, it's about how many, and they jump into immediate activity. And as this trend continues, we will find these 2 individuals charting very different courses that will ultimately produce very different returns in life. Down the road, at some point, we see one of them walking across stage, receiving award after award after award. The other is in the audience taking copious notes, thinking, that was such a brilliant idea. I'm so glad I came to this event. I am so happy to be here. Now that I have these notes, I'm going to go home and I'm really going to study this. I'm going to make sure that I understand this because that information that was just shared was so powerful. I don't want to mess it up because I've got one shot at this. So I'm going to go really study and make sure I understand. Time continues moving forward. The other individual, when they were on stage, if they had been really paying attention, that person in the seat, they would have they would have heard what they were sharing. I figured it out along the way. Or I watched a video and decided to give it a try. Or I had a conversation with someone and I decided, hey, that sounds reasonable. I can do that. And they just jumped into immediate action. Now, the difference between those 2 in the very beginning seems incredibly subtle. But here's one of the most profound aspects of this. We tend to attract who we are. Let me say that again. We tend to attract who we are. Therefore, if you're the type of individual that has to understand it, really wrap your arms mentally around it, you want to make sure you could articulate it to someone else, you just need to really be comfortable with this before you move forward. Guess who you're probably going to attract? The same types of individuals. That's not necessarily a bad thing. We just tend to attract who we are. I mean, I love a good type of music. My music mix may be very different than yours. But if I'm going to a concert and I'm picking one of the artists that I enjoy and I want some company, guess what? I'm probably going to ask a friend or 2 who also likes the same music. We tend to attract who we are. Most of us don't think, oh, let's pick 4 or 5 people that don't like this at all and see if we can just convert them. It's not typically what we want to do at a concert. And Isagenix is really no different. So we've got to start thinking about time differently. We've got to start thinking about how many. How many times can I post on Facebook? How many times can I comment on someone else's post? How many times can I reach out to someone about what it is that I'm doing? How many times can I private message? How many times can I reply to a private message? How many times can I be on a Zoom call or a training? Or how many times can I put myself in front of, someone at some point in time who has the opportunity, the ability to say yes to this? Now, if we took all of this and we kind of narrowed it all down, and we really got to the focal point of what it is that we're trying to do, it's what I have been referring to for years as the main thing. I know Rachel knows this because she's listened to the recordings. Many of you might also know this as well. But let me define the main thing. Because here's all we really want to focus on each and every day. Keeping the main thing the main thing. When I was building previously, I used to ask my team how many times. They knew, because they knew what the main thing happened to be. Here within the space of Isagenix, though, we only have a certain reach. And so if we use that phrase today, I don't know how many people would really understand it if I just said, what is your number? I don't know how many people would understand the box and what's supposed to go in the box and how that really over time will separate the people who are walking across stage, receiving the awards, from the people who are struggling. But let me define the main thing. The main thing is simply this. How many times today will the Isagenix story be told by you, by someone on your team, by a third-party tool? And just a sidebar here, third party means anything other than you. So that could be one of the websites that we're putting them into, like Real People, Real Results. It could be a three-way call. It could be a tool that you've dropped. It could be a little post that you've shared. It could be anything. It could be an ISA movie. It could be a live event. It could be an opportunity presentation. It could be a tasting. You get the idea. Third party just means it isn't you. So how many times today will the Isagenix story be told by you, by someone on your team, by a third-party tool, or by an event? How many times? Learn to track that, and you can build a financial wall around your family nothing can get through. I'm telling you, if there's one single point that you can focus on from the time you wake up in the morning until the time you retire in the evening, it would be this. Am I keeping the main thing the main thing? That should be the question that really just almost in a positive manner haunts us. I mean, it's on our consciousness. It's the forefront of our minds. It's what we're thinking about from sunup until sundown. How many times? How many times today am I going to focus on keeping the main thing, on making sure the Isagenix story gets told? Look, in the beginning, you probably won't tell it well, which is why we use tools, which is why we use our pages, which is why we use our support team, which is why we do three-way calls, which is why we get people on Zooms, which is why we do all of those other things to level your playing field. But in the very beginning, if you're not good and you level the playing field, it doesn't really matter. After all, one of my dear mentors while he was around, Jim Rohn, used to say, if you share a good idea long enough, it will eventually fall on good people. I never forgot those words. They've really benefited me over the years. If you share a good idea long enough, it will eventually fall on good people. Here's the problem with too many of us. Now, certainly not this group, but too many people out there in the space of Isagenix, and indeed in the space of networking, indeed, let's face it, in life. Too many people try one or two or three things, and if they don't get the results they want, they think, well, this didn't work, and they either retool and they try to move into a different direction, or they just quit, thinking, you know what, that just didn't work. So, in review, we've got to make absolutely certain that here in the space of Isagenix, we recognize the playing field, the profession we're in, the same. The company we represent, the same. The products we represent, the same. Compensation, same. The difference is us. It's what we call the U factor. And if I really want to capitalize on that advantage, if I want to use that to my advantage and teach and train my team so that they can be separated from the pack, so to speak, they can be the ones that are getting up early for these Zooms. And boy, let me just tip my hat to the people who are on the West Coast. You know, it was a bit early for me, not because I needed to be up and on this, but I had to be up on it and prepared, or prepared and then on it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you just don't jump on and share this. You have to really kind of, you know, what is the information I want to think through? And so I wanted to make sure that I could get that information to you. But for those of you that are on the East Coast or the West Coast, my goodness, it's still morning. And if we have anybody here from Hawaii, I think it's still the middle of the night. My point, we've got to start thinking about time differently. This is not about how long. This is about how many. And if I want to track the how manys, I can. I can track the how many people I prospect, how many people I present to, how many people I teach and train. I can track my follow-ups. I can track all of those things. I can track so many things that it just becomes almost like, I've got an Excel spreadsheet with everything on it. I can give you more data than you could possibly imagine. That would be one approach. I've tried that in the very, very beginning. It just didn't really serve me well. And so I kept paring it down, paring it down, paring it down, paring it down, until I finally realized that if I focused on the single most important thing, the main thing, and if that was what I thought about and that was what drove me every single day, how many times would the isogenic story be told by myself, by someone on my team, by a third-party tool, or by an event? Because if I could learn how to track that, I could, in fact, build a financial wall around my family that nothing could get through. And that's made all the difference. So for me, it's taking the complex and making it simple. It's focusing on counting those times. And if you want to really put out a challenge out there, then just ask yourself this. Before they received the presentation, were they in a position to say yes? In other words, did they know what they needed? And did they know what it cost? And did they understand their options? Preferred customer, becoming an associate. Did they understand? Did they know that? Once that information has been shared to them, once they know who Isogenics is, once they know what products would be right for them, what pack probably in the beginning, but what products would be right for them, once they understand what the price is, and once you've asked them to say yes. So, we take Visa, MasterCard, American Express, anything that I've overlooked that would prevent us from getting started today, that would be asking. That would be one. Because this person has now received enough information to be in a position to make a decision. That's one. If you learn to track that, and if we happen to connect with one another here in just a couple of days, coming up at NYKO, and I just kind of warmly smile and say, what was your number yesterday? You'll know what I'm talking about. Now, if you have an opportunity at some point to listen to this recording that's out there called the Recipe for Success, I go on to mention that the reason we made a box really small is so there would be only room for a number, not a story. Look, we all have lives, and most of them, if we were completely honest, are a bit crazy. A lot of people who are coming into the space of isogenics have jobs. Some are just trying to supplement income. Others are trying to make a full exit at some point in time. But at the minute they say yes, they still have to get up usually the next day and go to work. They've got their kids they've got to take care of. They've got the extracurricular activities surrounding that. They've got their social life. They have their religious or their spiritual life. They have their physical life if they're working out and taking care of themselves. There's a lot going on. And so we come in and we add one more thing to the complexity of that. So we have to kind of be aware that we just don't really have space for a story because everyone has a story. All we really want to focus on, what is the number? What's my number? And how do I go about improving that number? How can I get a little bit better today or tomorrow or the next day so that I can be a little bit more effective at reaching new people? Maybe a little bit more efficient at sharing the information. Maybe a little bit better in follow-up. If we just go to work on those little tiny subtleties over time, I promise you over time they will make a profound, profound difference in what it is that you're doing. So how do we stay on track? How do we move through this next cycle of 90 days and go into it with just this almost unbridled enthusiasm? But how do we come out of it and then move into the next phase? You see, this was another lesson that I had to learn, and it took me a long time to really wrap my mental arms around it. Let me see if I can explain. This 90-day concept, I used to refer to it as building your business in 90-day blocks of time. Those of you that would like to see an earlier version of me, it's still up there on YouTube. And if you Google my name and 90-day blocks of time, you'll find the YouTube video clip where I'm basically sharing this information. I've got a mustache and I think I look like a child, but nevertheless, you get the idea. I've been doing this for a while. And in the very beginning, I thought, okay, we're going to go at this with everything we possibly have, which for me was a really good thing to do. I mean, after all, if I invest everything I possibly can into this, I'm probably going to get a better return than if I just am casual at this and I just kind of see what happens. Probably wouldn't get a very good return. But guess what occurred? The 90-day cycle eventually ended. And lo and behold, I recognized I needed to do that again. And then after that 90-day cycle ended, I needed to do that again. And then the next 90-day cycle ended, and I needed to do that again. Indeed, just like the seasons. I mean, right now we're in the season of winter. But as soon as winter is over, spring will be here. Where you're living in Florida, maybe it doesn't matter as much. Maybe California, maybe doesn't matter as much. But let me suggest to you, in Nebraska, we look forward to spring. You know, when all of a sudden it starts to warm up and the permafrost goes away and you can start working in the yard and doing some things like that. But what happens right after spring? Summer. Summers are beautiful. They're hot. They're humid. They're wonderful. It's just a fabulous place. You'll see pictures of Lynn and I walking around the lake virtually every single day in the summertime. But what happens as soon as summer has come and gone? I mean, it's only going to be here for about 90 days. We're going to move into fall. Fall is going to change. It'll start getting cool at night. All of a sudden, we're going to start recognizing winter is indeed coming. And then here we are again, winter. That cycle will continue for as long as I'm here. It's been continuing for as long as you've been here too. Now, you may not notice it again in some of the areas as much, but that doesn't change the fact that these 90-day cycles occur. And so what do we want to do? Find your pace. Find your pace, find your rhythm. For Lynn and I, we have to make an adjustment in the middle of winter because when it's -4, walking around the lake, which is about 4 miles, doesn't really kind of hit the top of our radar. So we have to bring that activity indoors. It's not that you just hibernate like the bear and wait for spring to come. You just have to make an adjustment. In the summertime, we take it outdoors and we enjoy that experience. Again, we're just continually making the adjustments so within the context of the season, we can move forward. The university has the semester, and one leads to the next, to the next, to the next, until eventually you've accomplished your goal. The mother expecting a child has the 9-month gestation period, but really doctors have broken that down, and all of you mothers know, into 3 90-day blocks of time. The first trimester, the second trimester, and the third trimester. And they can all be very different. And so we just appreciate that when you look around the world, these 90-day blocks exist everywhere. Here within the space of Isagenix, as your income begins to increase, you're going to recognize the government of the United States wants to take advantage of this 90-day block of time because they're going to start asking you to pay your taxes quarterly. They want their money about every 3 months. And they're really quite particular about you complying and following through. So what's my point? Find your pace. For the role that we have right now, for this 90-day block of time that you're involved in right now, what's your pace? What does today, Saturday, look like for you? Based on where you are, what your goals are, the direction that you're going, what you're trying to accomplish, what's your pace? What are you trying to do today? What's Sunday going to look like for you? What's Monday going to look like for you? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you get the idea. What do you have blocked out so that you can be focusing on all the things that need to occur and never lose sight of keeping the main thing the main thing? How many times today will the Isagenix story be told by myself, or in this case by you, by someone on your team, by a third-party tool, one of our Facebook pages, Isa Movie, you get the idea, or by an event? How many times? Because if we can track that, we can really build that financial wall of security around our families. That's what this is all about. So how do you stay focused? Let me conclude with a very, very simple strategy that I've been using for years. In fact, so far ago, I don't even remember. This probably goes to the early part of my career. I first heard this from a man named Tom Hopkins. It was one of the most brilliant strategies I'd ever heard. He didn't even operate within the space of network marketing. Many of you, if you've been around real estate, might recognize his name. He was a realtor, and then he eventually started teaching and training other realtors how to be successful. And then he eventually branched that off into sales. He has a book out, which was one of the first ones I ever read, called How to Master the Art of Selling Anything. And although what we're really doing isn't about sales, I am so grateful that I attended that event and picked up on this piece of information because it just made such logical sense to my left brain that I thought, oh, I can do that, or at least I can try it. And I tried it, and guess what? I got a really predictable result. In fact, I got such a predictable result, I started teaching a training on it. And I've been sharing this with people privately and sometimes publicly for years. Here it is. Who knows your life better than you? Hopefully no one. So what you need to do is keep by your bedside something to write with and something to write on. I know that a lot of us use our devices, our phones and things like that, and that may be okay, but here's what I know for sure. It's still pretty easy to grab a pen or a pencil and a little notebook or a scrapbook or something like that. And it's always really fascinating to have something that you can keep like one of these. And then you've got it when you're done, and you can kind of go back and you can look through and you can see your progress. Doesn't have to be fancy. You know, you probably have something laying around the house right now. Again, don't think you've got to make a special trip to an Office Depot store or go online when we're done to Amazon and try to figure out the best one for you. You're missing the point. Grab a scrap of paper. It's all you need for right now. And tonight, before you retire, before you're ready to turn the lights out and call it a day, grab that piece of paper, keep it by the bedstand. It's probably the best place to keep it. And ask yourself the following question. Based on where I am and where I'm going over this 90-day period of time, based on where I am and where I'm going, what are the 6 most important things I need to do tomorrow? What are the 6 most important things I need to do tomorrow that will help me get from where I am to where I want to be? If folding the laundry makes that list, you're missing the point. I understand someone's got to clean the house and someone's got to fold the clothes and someone's got to make the meals and clean up and all of those things. That's not the purpose of this list. This list is from where I currently am to where I'm ultimately going, what are the half dozen things I need to do? Now, please don't think, oh, he said half dozen. He said 6. He said that about 3 or 4 times. I'm going to make a list of 10 or 12 items. You're missing the point. It was shared with me about a half a dozen things. I started putting down about a half a dozen things. And then I realized something. Back to my old days at AT&T, someone actually did a study on the human mind. They were trying to uncover what we really were capable of, most of us. Now, some of you probably are really quite right. That wasn't me. I don't know that it's me today. If it wasn't for my devices where I could keep track of things or my notepad to write things down, I'd be in a world of hurt. The reason I can stay on point and the reason I showed up for this appointment is because when Rachel said, will you do it? I grabbed my phone and I put it in my calendar. And then I double checked it. And then I made sure I had the information. That's what I do. But again, back to my point. AT&T wanted to find out because they were creating this thing called a telephone number. And they knew the longer the string of numbers, the more mathematical combinations they could make. Here was the problem. Try as they might, they found the average person could only remember 7 numbers. That was it. That was the longest string of numbers the average person could memorize. So guess what they did? They put the first 3 in parentheses. You guys remember how that was written? Your area code was in parentheses. And if you look that word up in the English language, it means ignore it. Because after all, the state of Florida just had 1 phone number or 1 area code for the whole state. California had 1 area code for the whole state. Oregon, 1 area code for the whole state, way back in the day. 1 area code, and you didn't need it because who are you going to call outside the state? That's not the life we had all those years ago. There was the prefix, 3 numbers, and then there was the suffix, 4 numbers, 7 numbers. That was it. Think back, for those of you that have been around for a while, how many telephone numbers you used to know. Used to know your mom, your cousin, your neighbor, your friend, your work, your office. I mean, you had this string of numbers. You knew all of them. How many of you have been asked recently to provide a number for your spouse and had to go grab your smartphone to look it up because you didn't even know what it was? Because we've abandoned this 7-digit system and we're now to 10. You have to have all 10 all the time. The problem is the average person can't remember 10. So what did we do? To solve the dilemma, we created a little device so we could just put the 10 in. Maybe you didn't need the story this morning, but I wanted to share it to try to make my point. Don't make this complicated. You don't need 10 things. Keep it to about a half a dozen. So it's the half a dozen things that are going to move you from where you currently are to where you ultimately want to be. What are they? Really give it a moment or two and think and write them down. Go to sleep. Beautiful point, little subset of this conversation. Your mind will work on that all night long. It'll think about it, process it. That's what our brains are for. They're working all of the time. In the morning when you wake up, here's step 2. Step 2 is to grab that list and ask yourself, if only one of these items gets accomplished today, what's the single most important thing I have on this list that's going to get me from where I currently am to where I want to be at the end of this 90-day period of time? One of those should jump out at you. If it doesn't, look again. What's the single most important thing? You know what most of us will do? We'll make that list. We won't keep it to about a half dozen. We'll make 10 or 15 items. We'll put the things on there that we need to do that really shouldn't be on that list. In the morning, we'll wake up and we'll look at that list and we will major in minor things. We'll think to ourselves, you know, if I just took about an hour right now, I could get 4 or 5 of these things just checked off, and then I'd really have the rest of the day to focus on what's important. You're missing the point of the exercise. The point of the exercise is to program your brain so that it's working for you all night long by asking yourself, what are the 6 things that I need to do tomorrow? The 6 most important things that will get me from where I currently am to where I ultimately want to be. What are those 6 things? And then in the morning to take a look at that list and ask yourself, of these 6, what's the single most important thing? And then go do it. Go do it to the best of your ability. Go do it until it's accomplished. If time prohibits it from being accomplished, for example, if one of your items, the single most important thing, is to follow up on Mary Smith, because she is somebody who, if she came on board, would be amazing. You spoke with her yesterday. You agreed to follow up today, but you agreed to follow up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And you look down there and you say, the single most important thing I can do today is be on that call with Mary Smith, but that doesn't happen until 2 o'clock. Don't sit around and not do anything until 2. Recognize that's at 2 o'clock. It's already been set. What's the second most important thing I have on the list? And then go do that. I mean, be reasonable about your list. I will tell you that if you can accomplish all 6 things every single day, you don't have a very good list. You need to take your game up a little bit. Because if you have how many people you're going to be reaching out to and you hit that goal every time, it's really not a goal for you. It may be a good number, but you have the capacity of doing more if you're hitting it every day. Your goal, and I know some of you are going to have this hopefully, I mean, I see the pencils and moving, you're writing this down, and of course it's being recorded. But I'll promise you this, you have to let go of that incredible desire we all have to finish when it comes to this exercise. This is not about getting through it. This is about getting the results from it. This is about majoring in major things. It's about doing the single most important thing first. It's about recognizing that if I had a really good list, and that really good list was something I thought about, recorded, got up in the next morning, looked at, circled the one that was the single most important, and went to work on accomplishing that with all of the tenacity, with all of my passion, with all of the conviction that I possibly could. And almost every single day, I got that one thing, the single most important thing, accomplished. But I didn't get to the rest of the list. Do you realize what would happen to you over the course of the next 12 months? Think about it like this, and this is something worth recording. If all you accomplished was one, but it was the single most important one, the one that would get you from where you currently are to where you wanted to be, and you consistently did that, there's a key word, consistently did that, every single evening, every single morning, and then throughout the day, you focused on getting that single most important thing accomplished, you would end up accomplishing 365 of the single most important things you could ever accomplish to get you from where you currently are to where you want to be. Let me suggest to you as candidly as I possibly can. In my opinion, it's not possible to stay where you are 1 year down the road having accomplished 365 of the single most important things. But what most of us will end up doing is we will try this for a day or two. And then it's like, oh, I got to write that list again at night. It's like, oh, I know what I need to do. I'll just keep track of it in my mind. I know what I need to do. I know I need to call Mary at 2. It's already on my phone. I don't need to write that down. I know I need to keep the main thing the main thing. I know what I'm doing. I know I need to add people to real results. I know the people I need to follow up on. I know the posts. I have the routine. I don't need to write it down. I'm just going to go to bed tonight. I don't need to do this. Then you'll wake up in the morning. Life will happen. Things will unfold. Your own level of accountability won't really be there. And because you don't really have that level of accountability, it's easy to get off track. I got this little level of accountability from me this year. Can you see this? Do you guys know what this is? This is my level of accountability. And I have a love-hate relationship with it right now. It's my little Fitbit. I posted it up the other day. And I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan because I basically thought I was doing a few things right, and it's telling me you're not even in the ballpark, buddy. And I'm like, that's not possible. I know what my schedule is. I know what my routine is. I know what I'm doing. No, you're not doing it. So now I have two choices. I can either take it off, or I can pretend it's lying to me. It has some grudge or arbitrary reason to basically suggest that I'm not doing what I've convinced myself I am. Or I can acknowledge something that's a little bit difficult even for me. Maybe, just maybe, I'm not drinking as much water as I thought I was. Maybe, just maybe, I'm not moving around as much as I thought I was. Maybe, just maybe, I'm not getting all of my protein shakes in like I thought I was. Maybe, just maybe, some of these things that are important to me, that I've been telling people that are important to me, that I've been telling myself are important to me, maybe the reason they're not getting done is I haven't really ever been keeping track. Keeping track is just a wake-up call. It's an awareness, and an awareness is just nothing more than the beginning of an opportunity for improvement. If you don't know where you are, if you don't know the direction that you're going and ultimately where you want to end up, it's very difficult to know if you're on track or not. So what I would say in conclusion for all of you is this. You guys are in the right place. Isogenics is such a beautiful, beautiful place to be. With all the companies that are coming, and there's going to be more every day, with all the companies that are here, and there are many companies to choose from, you've got to just pause for a moment and ask yourself, why would someone like me be here? I wasn't given any reason to be here other than I looked this company over from top to bottom and recognized these guys had in place what I wanted for a permanent home. They were in the space I wanted to be in, network marketing. I really love the profession. I really do. The company, the people that were behind it, these are some pretty bright people. They're people, so every once in a while, we'll kind of take a look and think, well, that was interesting. But they're people. But you know what? People probably take a look at me and say from time to time, well, that was interesting. I'm people too. I have to now recognize that what I thought I was doing may not have been in my best interest, and I've got to make some adjustments and move forward. That doesn't mean you take this thing off and throw it away. It means you learn from that feedback. The products that we have, I'm telling you, couldn't imagine going through a day. Could not imagine. I went into Starbucks the other day, and I don't know how I ended up there. I think we were with some friends. I pulled out my Starbucks card, and I said to the lady, see if there's anything on it. And she looked, and she said, no, there's nothing on the card. And I said, can you tell the last time I used that card? It's been like a couple of years. I think it's been from almost the time our product came out, the Isa Coffee. We like our product so much, we just kind of stopped going to Starbucks. I mean, why would you go to Starbucks, give them $5, and then stand in line to wait for them to call out your name wrong? It's like, this is so much better to have coffee at home and to do what you love. You're in the right place. We've got the right products. The compensation plan, I don't know that I need to tell any of you what the potential is for the upside, but I'm telling you what, if you had suggested to Lynn or myself that within a space of 5 years, we could end up earning millions per year, I would have thought you were crazy. I would have thought you were just delusional, but it's turned out to be true. Now, true, I understand we're at the very top, and that means we're kind of alone there. But guess what? This isn't like a corporation where just because we're holding a position at the top, you can't get there unless we move on or die. There's plenty of room at the top. The company has plenty of money because the compensation they pay out is based on the revenue they bring in. You go out and build a team second to none, they're going to reward you economically like they would reward someone second to none. It's all here for each and every one of us. And what a beautiful thing that we can actually support, help, and encourage one another and watch all of us rise as this company continues moving forward. We haven't even begun with our expansion into the United Kingdom and the European Union. You guys were so connected with technology, with Facebook. I've been playing around with it. Probably you have too. Pretty easy to find a Brit, even easier to find people throughout the European Union. Our systems are so solid and so in place, you don't need to get on an airplane anymore and fly over there and meet with someone. The upside potential we have when they announce what's coming, it boggles my mind. But all of this isn't going to matter if we don't look at time in the right context. Get rid of linear here. Forget about your start date. Forget about all of that. And if you see someone who seems to be further ahead of you, if you really want to have a conversation, have it with them privately. And don't talk about how long. Ask them about how many. And you might very quickly find that while you're talking to one or two, they're talking to 10 or 20. And they're doing in a day what you're taking over a week to accomplish. I'm telling you, you can make massive gains in distance, in space and time, when you're doing in one day what other people are taking a week or even a month to accomplish. So focus on that. Remember, this isn't a sprint where we're going to go like crazy and then be done. We're going to move from this 90-day challenge right into the next. And from that challenge right into the next. And from that challenge right into the next. And just like the seasons, some of them, because of what's happening in your world, you'll be able to move at a much more rapid pace. And others, you may need to take it down a notch. That's okay. Find your pace and be consistent at it. And remember to stay on track. Focus on keeping the main thing the main thing. Asking yourself that question, how many times today will the isogenic story be told by myself, by someone on my team, by a tool, or by an event? How many times? How many times? How many times? How many times? And to really make sure that you don't get caught up in majoring in minor things, but you're really focusing on the fundamentals. You're doing the most important things first. Use this little technique I've shared with you toward the end about writing down every night before you go to bed those half dozen things. You do that and you wake up in the morning, look at it, and give yourself an honest answer. What is the single most important thing? And then you go to work on that to the best of your ability, and then move on to number 2, 3, and 4. You can get through that whole list. Take it up a notch. Your goal, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of those a day, but have that list every single evening. You do that through this 90-day period of time, I'll promise you this, in my opinion, based on what I have observed over all of these years, you will become one of the rock stars in this company. If you consistently teach and train this to other people, you'll have one of the biggest teams in this entire company. And if you make sure that they are in turn sharing this information with those they're bringing on board, just these simple basic fundamentals, you'll become one of the rock stars walking across the stage, receiving all of the accolades and awards. But here comes the best part of all. When someone who's brand new asks you, how did you get here? You'll be able to teach them. You'll be able to sit down and share with them the very basic steps that you took, steps that they will be able to take as well, that will help them on their journey so that they can accomplish what you've already proven is possible. I thank each and every one of you for being on this call this morning. I'm going to turn this back over to you, Rachel. It's just been a pleasure and a privilege, and I am looking forward, as Lynn and I are collectively, looking so forward to seeing so many of your faces as we kick off this new year next week in San Antonio.
Well, we are looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Michael. So you guys, you heard from Lynn on Zoom number 2. You've now heard from Michael, Zoom number 8. These two were the sole reason why I made the jump from my previous company into Isogenics. We know we have the best company with the best products, the best compensation plan, and we couldn't have better mentors to really teach us and help us get exactly where we want to be. So this is definitely recorded. You're going to want to go back and watch this one over and over and over again. But before we end, I'm going to pass it over to you, Dana, for our action steps.
Okay, you guys, I had chills all over my body. Michael, I've had the privilege to sit and just chat with you one-on-one, and it's better and better. Like every single time I get to hear from you, I am inspired all over again. So thank you so much for getting up early and pouring into us. You guys, the action steps are the same as Wednesday. We've got our accountability post in the group page. Make sure to be popping in there. But I want to leave you with this. I have a whole 2 pages worth of notes right now, but the one thing that I find so much hope and encouragement and excitement about is, in Michael's opinion, we cannot be where we are today 365 days from now if we do the single most important thing every day. How does that not encourage us, you guys? It goes back to the opposite of that. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I'm excited. So work on your 6 list. I have my 6 list done. I just need to type it up, make it pretty, and put it in a frame on my desk because I'm a visual person. And it's changed since I've started Isogenics, but it is what I do consistently every single day. I stay focused, and I love that it's not about how long, it's about how many. So having said that, you guys make it a great weekend. We've only got 2 Zooms left, Wednesday and Saturday, and Rachel and I are going to come to you from San Antonio with I'm sure more amazing information and inspiration. And stay focused. You guys go back to the accountability post, read what the accountability is for this week. Let's start celebrating some promotions because the ultimate goal is promote, right?
That's right.
So, love you guys. Make it a great day. I'm going to go do a tasting party after I get showered and cleaned up.
All right. Bye, you guys. Have a great weekend. Thank you again, Michael.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.